Good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Hightop Sports. Happy Sunday. This show is, of course, brought to you by BetUS. And although it's a bye week, we still got to do our Sunday show. I got to stay in the rhythm. I got to stay in the routine. We didn't have a call-in show yesterday. It felt weird. I did do a live show after one of the greatest college football games we've seen in a very long time, probably in my lifetime. That was a one for the ages. And watching that just makes you go, man, wouldn't it be nice to be part of something like that? Wouldn't it be nice to be able to make adjustments, halftime adjustments, and go out there and punch somebody in the mouth after being down 33-7 going into, or 30-7, going into half? I mean, by golly, Carson Beck was able to turn it back on. Great game. Great game. Hell of a game from Ryan Williams, a true freshman, 17 years old. But what did we learn? Let's talk about the few things that broke out, because Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin go down to Kentucky, which set off a string of events of people saying, I told you Lane wasn't it. You got guys coming out the woodworks. It starts a conversation. I guess we can say that. We can start there. UCF goes down, gets absolutely manhandled by the Buffs. We're going to talk about that. Is that a good sign for Florida? Is that a bad sign? I don't know. And then, of course, my favorite thing happened. The Stangs. The Stang that slapped FSU's booty back and forth. I loved it. But first order, Kentucky gets it. Look, they get it done against Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin. And Ole Miss was rolling. They're rocking and rolling versus everybody. They're putting up 70, 60 points a game. And then they play a real football team and get punched in the mouth. Not quite sure to handle that adversity. And look, I love Lane. I've been a very big advocate for Lane coming to Florida, the Lane train. And I liked him last year. He pissed me off last year because I've always been critical of him not being able to win the big ones or finding a way to lose ones he shouldn't. A lot of coaches have that tendency, right? Now, there's going to be the complete overreaction where people are going to kind of jump aboard and say, see, Lane isn't the answer, Lane is the fix. Jedd Fisch, which people have been piping for as well, which I've not been a big, huge fan of. He's lost 2 now, lost to Rutgers. Rutgers are undefeated, by the way. It just goes to show you that this coaching search is going to be a doozy if Billy isn't able to turn this ship around and get things rolling. Greg Schumann, defensive coordinator, that name's been tossed around. That name was thrown under the bus when they were down 30-7. So there is no right answer, and I've said it this entire time. I'm thankful that I don't have to be that. I talked about it in yesterday's show. It's like everybody, all the possibilities had themselves a day yesterday, and then all of a sudden, John Gruden's name was tossed back into that. He's the only one that didn't have a bad day yesterday, right? That was on the short list for Florida. Lincoln Riley was able to pull it off against Wisconsin. He was kind of on that short list too. But it just goes to show you that college football has its ebbs and flows. I would really love to see how Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss bounces back. They've got a gauntlet of a schedule coming up. They've got Georgia at home. That one's going to be a doozy. That's the game that I think we all need to focus on. Look, here's the funny part. If we wanted Lane, we needed Lane to lose. We don't want him to go to a playoff. This is best case scenario, but it's like, well, we don't want him to lose to Kentucky. We want him to lose against like Georgia or maybe Texas or something like that. Not Kentucky. Bob Stoops just has that in his arsenal, guys. It's in his toolbox. He's going to win 7, 8 games, 9 games every single year and ruin somebody's season. That's what Bob Stoops does. Or Mark Stoops. Bob Stoops? Mark Stoops. One of the Stoops. I'm confused. Anyways, next up we got UCF. And obviously we're in UCF week. It's at home, 7:45, sold out crowd coming up against Saturday. They were 14-point favorites against Colorado. Get absolutely throttled against Colorado. Now, the question is going to be, can Florida bounce back? UCF, watching that game, the things that concerned me against Florida were there. They ran the ball efficiently. I think they had 180 yards rushing. KJ Jefferson ran for almost 90 effing yards. The guy can't throw, but he can run. He's a linebacker at quarterback, okay? He's not a running back. He's a linebacker, guys. 290 pounds running down the football field as a bulldozer. They try to contain him as best they could. That defensive line for UCF is a feisty one. It is furious. Colorado did a good job of dumping it down quickly, getting the ball out fast and quick. Shador had a good game, not the typical Shador Sanders 300+ yard game, but 250 yard passing, I believe. Defensively, Colorado did things very well, and they had a lot of turnovers. They had 2 interceptions and 2 forced fumbles, one that was returned for a touchdown. So special teams, defensively, that's where Colorado really did the things. And what concerns me is, what have we been talking about in Florida? It's defense. Defense has been the biggest point of concern for Florida. So as much as I want to be excited going into this game, and especially from what we saw, look, UCF is not this great football team, but it's in a way, it kind of lines up to what Arkansas was last year. Florida should go in and handle their business, but all of UCF's strengths slams on Florida's weaknesses, right? So it's like a bad combination. I talked about it on Sunday's show. We're going to talk about it more as the season goes. Shout out to Brendan for the stat line. Although they are number one in rushing, they are horrible in the red zone, ranking 93rd in the country. I think Florida is one of the top rated defenses, top 25, I believe, rated defense in the red zone. So that is a pro. That is a positive. We saw it yesterday. They had a turnover in the red zone and a fourth and goal stand on the red zone. Colorado did against UCF, which is 14-point swing right there. That's massive. So those things are positive, but again, the ability of KJ Jefferson to move, we have not had an answer from mobile quarterbacks. I hope this 2 weeks that we had off, we are able to make some adjustments and figure those things out, but those are going to be my concerns that I emphasize and talk about with this week to come. We'll talk about it tomorrow a little bit with Stephen Harris, and of course, again, on Wednesday for our main show, we'll break it down a little bit more and how things are going to roll out. We also heard Billy kind of talk this past week about maybe we just make some adjustments on defense. Maybe we just put we start making some movements. That has to happen, I think, because I think if we just walk out there what we've been walking out there with, we're going to get throttled. That's what concerns me. We can't go out there. We have to address this in a certain way and control the game. Again, that D-line is ferocious for UCF. They're a nasty bunch. I'll tell you what. So our O-line's going to get tested. And although the O-line has shown some progress, it's going to be tested come week 2. The quarterback play is atrocious for UCF. That's where we're going to have to take an advantage. Now, this game right now, of course, the show is brought to you by BetUS. And when you use the code YouTube150 at BetUS.com, you get back 150% of your deposit, up to $2,000 on your first 2 deposits, and then $125 on your third one when you use that code YouTube150. Right now, Florida's a favorite headed into this game come Saturday. It's a 2.5 3-point, and I'm sure it'll adjust as the week goes on. We'll have that locked in probably in a couple of days, but right now it's 2.5, depending on where you look. I like it. The kind of old saying goes, when you're the home team, you got to automatically get a 3 points. So if this is on a neutral site, they're telling me it's probably a pick 'em or maybe even a favorite to UCF if this is on a neutral site. That's how I'm kind of looking at that. And to be honest with you, I don't blame them. I don't blame them for feeling that way. So we'll see how, again, it all shakes up come Saturday. But hey, look, not all bad news. The dogs go down. Uncle Lou was in disarray. If you haven't seen his video of him at the bar, prayers for Uncle Lou. He was in Atlanta. They had some issues, I know, with the hurricane, so he lost his internet power, etc. So he had to go outwards. And his boozed up cast after it was halftime. I think they were down 21-0 was incredible. I mean, the way that Georgia fans were reacting after the first few minutes of that football game, I think all of us were. I was like, this Georgia might be back to what it was with Mark Richt at the helm. Like they went. Uncle Lou nailed it. They had 5 top 3 recruiting classes over the last 5 years, and this is what you put on the table. The board has got everybody's number. This guy goes everywhere. And when I'm watching this game, what leads me to believe too is it's a concern because it's like, dude, how do you have the next turnover? Now, some people are going to argue he's doing it with Saban's guys like Urban did it with Zook. And I know that's going to be a small narrative that happens. They lost a lot of guys to the transfer portal. They brought a lot of their guys in. Jalen Monroe obviously was not his guy, but offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, they had to get a new offensive coordinator. This guy was promoted. He was a tight end coach at Washington, got promoted to OC because they lost their OC to Seattle, the Seattle Seahawks. So they've had a lot of turnover, and DeBoer got it done. The guy's won everywhere. I have my reserves going into the season, but by golly, he buckled it up and locked it in. But this was the best part of yesterday. Bro, this was the halftime record. It's quarter 3. I didn't realize when I did the graphic. The score ended up being like 42 or 48-16. And we have our show that we shoot on Monday, the Monday mashup. We have the Old Reliable segment. And I was like, I don't know who to do for Old Reliable. Usually, Bama you could put in there because they handled business, but that obviously was for Game of the Week. I'm giving little tidbits away. But I said Old Reliable is FSU because we can always rely on them to not cover or to basically for the opposing team to just absolutely skull drag them. So that should be fun to talk about with the boys tomorrow on Monday's mashup. But this was the highlight of the weekend. This just capped it all off. This was a good time. Anytime your opposing, your enemy across the pond goes down, it's good to see. Look, as bad as Florida's been this year, Florida State's worse. I can't say that. I can't support the fact that they're not. I think FSU fans would agree. They're yelling and bring in Brock Lynn. Bring in Brock Lynn. He goes 0-4. We don't want Brock Lynn. They're in shambles. They're completely lost. this is what happens when you don't recruit. The portal didn't fix any of the holes they had, and they took a massive step back, which I tried telling y'all. Nobody wanted to listen, but this is a massive step back. Florida's got a big one this week, boys. Got UCF, an opportunity to get 3 wins on the board and to going against Kentucky, which is going to be a fun one as well. That Kentucky game's at home. Some big games and get a little momentum going off of that Mississippi State W. Texas only beat Mississippi State by only scored 35. We scored 45. Now, they only gave up 13 points. We gave up 28. Offensively, though, we're basically Texas is what I'm getting at, boys. All right? I had some fun with my sarcasm on Twitter this weekend. People did not appeal to it as I thought they would, but it is what it is. I hope you guys enjoyed this content. Happy Sunday. Not our typical Sunday show because we're reacting to Florida typically, but we're reacting to this past Saturday, which was a fantastic slew of games. This last Saturday, Utah goes down to Arizona. I was shooked on that one. I thought Utah was going to handle their business. College football is at an all-time prime right now. Ashton Jeanty, running back for Boise State, 845 yards, 5 games into the season. Travis Hunter doing some incredible things. Cam Ward does things on Friday that gets everybody fired up. Jalen Mirabal. I mean, this Heisman race, one for the ages. We are living in it, boys. As much negativity as there is going on with the NIL and college football, the other side of it is absolutely incredible. We have some incredible talent with Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Williams. They're so fun to watch. So as much as we want to get pissed about the things that are happening, we are being spoiled with incredible football. And we're only in week 5. And we get a 12-team playoff. Buckle up, boys. Hold on to your nuts. It's going to be a hell of a season. Smash the like button, subscribe. And, of course, the show is brought to you by BetUS. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace and love, baby.